Hello everyone, back to today's first video. We're going to have a look at the ECMWF 30-day model for today's first video. So this can take us into July. We're going to look at the weather in terms of temperature and precipitation anomalies for the next 4 weeks. So that does get us into the early part of July. The second video up later on today on the homepage will be the regular weekly 10-day video update, including all of the usual features in that one. So at the Hungarian Met Office for this, big thank you to them for supplying us with these charts. We can't show you the mean sea level pressure or 500 millibar height anomalies, but you can get a rough idea from temperature and precipitation anomalies of what the model will be forecasting in terms of its overall pattern. So I'll get on this for you right now. We're going to start off with the week 1 temperature anomaly. It's week 24 for the year. It's week 1 for our forecast period, taking us from the 10th through to the 16th of June. So a real east-west split across Europe this week. So in the west, significantly cooler or even colder than average, really, for the UK, for Ireland, for France, down to Spain and Portugal. All of those areas coming out below average, between around 3 and 6 degrees below average on our temperature scale. Conversely, though, over on the eastern side of Europe, it's much, much hotter. We're talking about really hot through Poland and then going into northern parts of Ukraine and then up towards the Baltic countries such as Latvia. Seeing temperatures there between temperature anomalies between 6 and 10 degrees above average. And more widely across most central and eastern parts of Europe, we've got a significantly warmer than average temperature anomaly of 3 to 6 degrees above average. Up to Scandinavia, so there we see quite a warm scene across central and northern parts of Scandinavia, a little bit cooler perhaps for parts of Sweden and into southern Finland. And then down into the Med, well, the east-west split is seen through the Mediterranean as well. So western parts of the Med, so kind of like Spain, Portugal, into the Balearic Islands of Corsica, Mallorca, Menorca, Ibiza, those areas are below average. But from around Corsica and Sardinia eastwards to Italy, and then through the Balkans and down in towards Greece and Turkey, it's generally warmer than average through there. So a real east-west split in the week ahead. Precipitation-wise, it looks pretty dry in the east and southeastern part of Europe. So these areas just here, kind of like southeast Med, and then up to the Black Sea and into the east of Europe. Those areas drier than average, but out in the west and in the northwest, much wetter than average. So again, we see that for Ireland and the UK, for parts of northern France and the Low Countries, Belgium, Holland, and then over into Germany, up to Denmark and southern parts of Scandinavia. Wetter than average precipitation anomalies through there. Central and northern parts of Scandinavia coming out drier than average through there. And into the Mediterranean, generally quite a dry scene, actually. Even Spain and Portugal, where it is pretty cool in terms of the temperature anomaly, even there it is a bit on the drier than average side. Most parts of the Mediterranean looking quite dry. Down towards the far southeastern part of the Med, into parts of Greece, it is a little bit wetter through there. So it does look quite unsettled in the northwest. Obviously, we've got low pressure through here where it's cool and wet. High pressure is over on the eastern side of Europe where it's hotter and drier too. Iceland also quite dry. We don't often talk about ice because it's a bit covered up by the time stamp there, the date stamp, but Iceland is a bit drier than average. So it tells us we've got high pressure blocking up here and the jet stream is being pushed southwards and then going something like that with a high pressure in the east and the southeast of Europe. Then we go through to week 2, week 25 for the year, week 2 for our forecast period. This takes us from the 17th to the 23rd of June. Quite a big change taking place because it becomes a lot warmer in the west of Europe. So we lose those cooler or colder than average temperature anomalies in the west, and we see Ireland and the UK and France and down to Spain and Portugal all joining in with the rest of Europe in going warmer than average. So this looks like a warmer week, the 3rd week of June. Looks like it's warming up across the west of Europe. The core of the warmth, though, is still where it was in week 1. It's across the central and eastern parts of Europe. Not quite as big an anomaly, but even so, still 3 to 6 degrees above average. And more widely across the continent, UK and Ireland included in this, we're kind of like 1 to 3 degrees above average quite widely. So a relatively warm week coming up there, even into the far west of Europe. The Mediterranean also looking quite warm. Portugal still struggling a little bit with the temperature anomaly there, but otherwise most parts of the Med looking quite warm, although the holiday islands again struggling a bit with temperatures through the Balearic Islands and again through Malta, Corsica, Sardinia. All those places look like they're struggling a little bit with the temperature, but generally it's a relatively warm scene across much of Europe this week, and it's also looking drier in the west as well. So above average rainfall being pushed down to the southeastern corner now in week 2, 17th to 23rd of June. So Italy, and then over the Adriatic into the Balkans, and then down to Greece, looking quite unsettled there, above average precipitation, but otherwise lots of dry weather coming up, or certainly drier in the west of Europe as well. So again, where it's wettest this week in week 2, it's going closer to average or a little bit drier than average. Also Scandinavia looking relatively dry, and these eastern parts of Europe also looking quite dry as well. So it appears that high pressure is becoming more influential, bringing warmer and drier conditions away from that southeastern corner where it is a little bit more unsettled in week 2. Week 3, which is week 26 for the year, week 3 takes us from the 24th to the 30th of June. Still a relatively warm scene, actually. In the far northwest, it's cooling a little bit across particularly northern and western parts of Scandinavia, and some parts of Ireland and sort of Scotland, western parts of Wales, southwestern, just going closer to average there. Portugal also struggling a bit for the temperature anomaly too, but otherwise, again, most parts of Europe are looking warmer than average. The core of the warmth is around here again, 3 to 6 degrees above average, from kind of like the east of Germany through Poland and into Ukraine. Those areas where the core of the warmth is up 6 degrees above average, obviously significantly hot in those areas, temperatures well into the 30s Celsius. Down through the Med, again, away from Portugal, most parts of the Med looking above average with temperature anomalies. So quite a warm week coming up there again for the final week of June. Precipitation-wise, we do see that the drier than average conditions are being pushed over to the far eastern side of Europe. So we talked about sort of Ukraine and down towards the Black Sea. Those areas are still a bit drier than average, but otherwise most places are just reverting to average conditions. We do see that it's beginning to go a little bit wetter than average. It's a weak signal, but it's starting to go a bit wetter than average again through parts of northwest Scandinavia and down into the UK and Ireland. Just looks like it's possibly turning a bit more unsettled again, I think, through the final week of June. So we get a drier, warmer week in the third week of June in the northwest of Europe, but then it starts to go perhaps a little bit more unsettled, a little bit cooler and wetter maybe in the final week of the month. Otherwise, just very close to average with precipitation is probably indicative of the model starting to lose a signal as it gets through to week 3. And then finally, we're into week 4, which is week 27 for 2019. Takes us from the 1st to the 7th of July. So again, it looks quite warm on this eastern side of Europe, but warm and average temperature anomalies are gradually receding towards the eastern side, I think, and possibly that anomaly to average is reducing a bit as well. Western parts of Europe looking average to a bit on the cool side, if anything, particularly maybe for the UK and for Ireland. Precipitation-wise, gets a weak signal, but it does possibly hint at being a little bit more unsettled again in the west of Europe. So, again, we're talking about sort of Germany, France, possibly into the UK and Ireland, possibly parts of Scandinavia. Very weak signal, as you always get for week 4, but I think overall a little bit on the wetter than average side in the western part of Europe, and maybe still hinting at being a bit drier over in the east. So weakening signals, but it does look as though by the start of July things could be a little bit more unsettled again, actually, in the west of Europe as the drier warm weather recedes over to the eastern side. We're starting off very cool, even quite cold and unsettled across this western part of Europe in the week ahead. Things look like they're going to warm up next week. Next week is looking warmer and drier through most parts of Europe, but then by the end of June into the start of July, possibly going a bit cooler and a bit more unsettled again in the west as the warmer, drier conditions gradually recede onto the eastern side. It could all look very different next week. This is just a snapshot of what the model is showing today, but these long-range charts are always prone to chopping and changing, so things could look very different next week. But that's how it's looking for this week anyway. Right, we'll be back later on this afternoon with your week to 10-day video update, so come back for that then. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.